The holiday season is here, and Academy Sports and Outdoors has the legendary gifts you need at undefeatable prices every day. Shop in stores or online at academy.com to save on gifts on everybody's list. From football jerseys and basketball hoops to fire pits and deer stands, the most wonderful time of the year happens here. This Christmas gives the gift of fun from Academy Sports and Outdoors. We're going to have some fun here today on the Thursday edition of the program. That is Mick Walker. I'm just Spencer Holbrook, battling through some elements here. It's November. It's the Midwest. That means that we've got some head colds, we've got some sore throats, we've got some stuffy noses, and we've got Big Ten football, baby. It's UCLA coming to the Horseshoe. Nothing says Big Ten football, Mick, like UCLA coming to town. It's a classic Big Ten matchup between the Buckeyes and the Bruins.
Yeah, and at night too, a nice November night game where it'll be nice and chilly against a team from Los Angeles. Oh, and then you throw in the fact that Nico Iamaleava is the quarterback on the opposite side. His last trip to the shoe at night wasn't all that great of an experience for him. So a lot of cool elements at play. It's not something that I think we all expected when you and I would have expected or predicted when we were high schoolers watching Ohio State football as teenagers, and now covering it at this level is interesting, especially considering all the aspects we just talked about.
It's interesting though because it's going to be November 15th, but it's not going to be all that cold. The coldest football game I ever played in was 21 degrees. There's snow on the ground. Uh, Mick, what's your favorite like cold weather tailgate food? Because obviously, like burgers, dogs, some dips, things like that are good like tailgate food. But like it starts to get cold, you want some different tailgate food. Is it like a good bowl of chili? Are you a jambalaya guy? Are you I don't know. What's your go-to cold weather tailgate food?
Yeah, I'll go chili just because I think it's easy enough. You and I are both big crock pot people. Spencer gave me a tour of his house last week before we left for Purdue. Showed me the couple of crock pots they got cooked up for when they get the chili going. And obviously, you can do that with a little bit of electric. You don't need a lot of different things to get the chili going. Like some people would want to do a Blackstone or maybe something like that. You don't have to do all that for the chili. You kind of make it up beforehand. Maybe you drive on down to your lot around Ohio Stadium, plug it in, and you're good to go with a bowl of chili. You got some fixins too. I'm a big fan of jambalaya myself, but I just make a box jambalaya. I'm by no means the best cook around here.
All right, all right. Yeah, if you're making chili for the Ohio State game, invite Lettermen Row. We'll come have some chili before the Ohio State game.
We walk right around the lots, folks. We walk right, have to walk right all the way through them around Ohio Stadium. So if you see someone, say something. Say hello.
That's a shameless invitation for myself to come crash somebody's tailgate and have a bowl of chili before I go into the Ohio Stadium for Ohio State and UCLA. Mick, this is Act 2 in a 3-act performance by Ohio State of Big Ten tune-up games. Obviously, anybody in the Big Ten can get anybody. This UCLA team beat a Penn State team that we thought was pretty good at the beginning of, in early October. Turns out Penn State sucked. So that UCLA win over them doesn't really mean anything anymore. The Bruins have 3 wins on the year. They're 3-6. They're 3-3 in Big Ten play, though. They've beaten up on some of the bottom of the Big Ten. Actually, their 3 wins have come from the bottom of the Big Ten to get them out of the cellar. But actually, isn't the cellar in the like the attic, or is the cellar down below?
I don't know. We'll just say basement.
They're not.
The bottom.
Yeah,
The
they're
Big
not.
Ten
Yeah, they're not in
basement.
the basement. They're not in the basement of the Big Ten. We're just all over the place to start here. This is my fault. I feel like Berm trying to do a show right now. Go get Berm's coverage over at LettermenRow.com. $1 for your first 7 days. UCLA's beat up on the basement of the Big Ten to get out of the basement. They're on the ground floor now, I would say, at 3-3 in the league. What kind of challenges do you think this UCLA team presents for Ohio State?
I think if anything, since they fired Deshaun Foster, you saw a little bit in that Penn State game where I do think they probably contributed to Penn State crumbling down to what it's become right now. Like they just fight really hard for Jerry Neuheisel and Tim Skipper. In case you guys were curious, it is Tim Skipper is the interim head coach of the Bruins, not Jerry Neuheisel. Just because he's on all the pictures when they win and they do all that stuff, he is not the head coach there. But they fight really hard. Nico is still like insanely talented athletically, and he still has a good arm. I don't think they have any level of pass catchers that would threaten this. Like I think you could roll out Aaron Scott, Bryce West, and like Devin Sanchez at your corners and probably feel like you're gonna win comfortably still. Like, and that's no disrespect. I don't mean that as disrespect. Their recruiting has not been up to snuff under Deshaun Foster. Now they're dealing with the results of that. But I think there's still some talent. They're still going to fight hard, and they present some things with, like, I think you've talked about it plenty before leading up to it, Nico running the ball. Like, they want to run the ball. They kind of want to do some different things that just they do things that, like, pesky college football teams do is just run the ball, maybe do, like, some crazy stuff every now and then to try and keep a hold of the ball, and then they'll flex it around defensively and just trying to see what they can frustrate you with. So they present little issues like most pesky college football teams do this time of year.
Yeah, I watched this UCLA team, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, Mick. And I mean this as a compliment to Michigan in a way. UCLA is like not a poor man's, like a homeless guy's Michigan. Like the homeless guy who you've seen for the last like 6 years on your block. Like the most homeless of homeless man's Michigan, in a sense of mobile quarterback with a rocket arm who doesn't seem to be the most accurate guy in the world, even with that rocket arm. An offensive line that's kind of pieced it together a little bit. They really, really want to establish the run, and if you catch them on a day where they're doing a good job of that, they're gonna gash you. And pass catchers who are not living up to expectations of what they hoped the pass catchers would be for the quarterback with a rocket arm. So the offense reminds me of like the poorest possible man's Michigan team. Now, the defense does not. The defense is not good. It's one of the worst Big Ten defenses I've seen in a while. It's one of the worst Big Ten run defenses that you can imagine. Everybody runs the ball on this UCLA defense. It is the cure for the common run game. Ohio State's run game is pretty common, so I would expect a heavy dose of run game this week, especially with Carnell Tate still banged up. We'll see if he even plays. And some new offensive line combinations potentially in the works still as the offensive line tries to get healthy. I think Ohio State's going to be able to establish the run. But on the other side of the ball, I do think this is a game, Mick, where, is it the most intriguing matchup? Absolutely not. Is it the night game that everybody hoped for at Ohio State? No, they wanted Texas or Penn State to be a night game. But I think you can learn a lot from the way that Ohio State's going to defend this UCLA team into how they plan on trying to stop Bryce Underwood, Justice Haynes, Jordan Marshall, Donovan McCulley, Marlon Klein, Smaj Morgan, I guess, and Andrew Marsh in the Michigan offensive attack. So I think that there's a lot to learn here in this game. So if you really want to try to focus in on some things, watch the Ohio State defense operate against Nico and against the UCLA offense, and I think you will learn something about the Ohio State-Michigan game 2 weeks before it happens.
Yeah, not you and I, neither of you or I are artists in any type of way or form. We don't draw or paint or do anything like that. But if we're just talking it down to like an artistic level, this is
speak for yourself.
Like I'm sorry, I've not seen your work, Spencer. But if you break it down to an artistic level and you really look at it, this is a way where you can kind of sketch out your game plan and what you think, like you said, you can do against them. Like you get the pencil out, you get Matt Patricia's pencil out, you don't grab the markers or anything. And you kind of just sketch out, need to cage the pocket a little bit more. Maybe we need to play a little less man, a little more zone, maybe a little more cover 2, cover 3, whatever you want to say and do. Like make sure we close up the seams, which I know you have talked about on the Lettermen Row message board. I think Justin Zwick over with Austin and Berm on their Roosters live show did a good job kind of breaking that down and addressing that issue on Monday. Mm-hmm. But there's different things different holes that you can still kind of patch and kind of fix over, but also just sketch out what you want to do this week, and then a little bit of what you want to do against Rutgers, and how that all ties into the best game plan for when you go up to Ann Arbor.
No, I agree. So, and look, they're not going to put a lot on film for how they're going to defend Michigan. I still think there's going to be plenty of different things that they're going to do to try to confuse Nico differently than the way that they're going to try to confuse Bryce Underwood, differently from how they tried to confuse Arch Manning, and differently from how they tried to confuse DeMond Williams in the end. But again, all of that being said, there are just some little things that we'll probably see in this matchup in the limited snaps that the starters will be out there 1 to 11, because I really don't see a need for the 11 starters to get too many reps in this game. Like Ohio State should be able to handle this team without, 50 snaps from Caden McDonald. Like that's not something that needs to happen. But yeah, I just think there's some valuable lessons that Ohio State can take in this upcoming Saturday.
Yeah, you nailed it with like the personnel, even beyond like hiding things, disguising things, not using they probably just don't need to play Arvell Reese on the edge a lot compared to what they may do at like Ann Arbor. Like when you have their inexperienced like tackles up there, and you can just kind of let your best player go be the best player. Maybe you give Caleb Downs. I think Jordan Reed of ESPN kind of tweeted it out last week, just letting Caleb Downs float around the whole like defensive backfield a little bit more against Purdue. Maybe you do that a little bit more, but you still don't kind of have to do all the different things that you are going to use to unleash it, just because you don't need to. Caleb doesn't need to do much more than show up and just play what he does naturally to be very impactful in this game.
Yeah, and I think you'll see a pretty vanilla approach all things considered, from Matt Patricia when it comes to the way that they deploy Jermaine Matthews and Caleb Downs and some of the different chess pieces that they have in the secondary to move around, and some of the ways that they can use Peyton Pierce. And, as he continues to grow, Ryan Day singled him out as a guy who's really impressed him in more playing time throughout this year. So I'm anxious to see what it looks like against UCLA and what we actually can take away from the Michigan game. The good news for us, Mick, is with everything that's starting to become geared toward the Michigan game, and we saw our On3 colleague Zach Herbstreit put together an early preview of Ohio State, Michigan a couple weeks out. Michigan plays Northwestern in Wrigley Field at noon. So if you have plans for Saturday before the Ohio State UCLA game, if those plans are with your significant other, break their heart. Tell them you got to watch Michigan Northwestern. You can sit down and watch the whole of Michigan Northwestern, then go out during that 3:30 window, do whatever you need to do. Go catch a movie. I don't know what's playing in the current theaters, and then get back in time for Ohio State UCLA. Or you can go to the Horseshoe, Nick. You can go to the Horseshoe. You could sit at home and watch Michigan Northwestern and have a nice nap and still make it to the Horseshoe in time for UCLA at Ohio State. I think you know where I'm going with this, Mick, because the place you need to go if you would like to come to the Horseshoe is the Gametime app and gametime.co. The Gametime app, gametime.co, that's the place to go. I know that rhymes. I did that on purpose. For Ohio State UCLA tickets, right now there are tickets as low as $77 over on the Gametime app and at gametime.co. $72, actually. That's a top 5% value. They have this thing called zone deals. You pick the zone you want to sit in the stadium. They pick the seat for you, and they give you the best price possible. They're just currently tickets now. I'm looking at the map as I speak, $69 up in C deck. Is that the most comfortable, best place to sit? No, but that you get in the door at $69. Like, if you would like to come to this game, this is a perfect opportunity for you to do that. And guess what? But wait, there's more. Billy Mays style. We'll give you $20 off your first purchase. That's right, $20 off your first purchase in the Gametime app or at gametime.co when you use that code ON3, ON3. $20 off your first purchase in the Gametime app. Go get your tickets to see Ohio State UCLA. There's Ohio State Rutgers tickets available for Senior Day next week. There's Ohio State Michigan tickets available over there. If you'd like to be public enemy number one in Ann Arbor, celebrate the first Buckeyes win since 2019 up there in the big house, go do that over at gametime.co or in the Gametime app. Go get your tickets today. We'd love to see you guys here in the Horseshoe on Saturday. Mick, what did you learn from Ryan Day this week?
You were there Wednesday. I had something going on, so I was not on in the Woody on Wednesday, but just listening to him on Tuesday. You always get fascinated when he doesn't get a lot of questions about like actual UCLA or the opponent. He got one question about Nico in the very beginning. Other than that, it was honestly a lot of recruiting things, a lot of like big picture things. So on the recruiting side, you learn a lot about like what he thinks about having one transfer portal window, or what he thinks about maybe taking more guys, or how you carry this momentum late into the cycle. But I don't think that's really where we wanted to go to it. And I know, like I said, you've been around more, so I see the floor to you on this topic.
Yeah, before we get there, are you and Jeremy Berm recording a recruiting show this week?
We will be recording Friday morning for an immediate release after.
Wow, okay, because it's a big recruiting weekend this weekend. Ryan Day did get quite a few questions about the recruiting scene this week. I think as everybody's starting to get some National Signing Day stories ready to go, geared up and ready to go. I wanted to take a minute. We don't have to spend too much time on this, Mick. I thought Ryan Day's messaging on Wednesday night was really important. I've written probably 4 or 5 stories this year about how he's keeping this team motivated. I think it's one of the most fascinating storylines of this year. It wasn't really that fascinating when he was asked about it. I'm not saying that it was like a bad question or anything. Tim May from the Tim May Show, formerly of Lettermen Row. Thanks for being here for so many years, Tim. We hope that Tim's doing well. Asked Ryan, hey, Mac Rhodes, the CFP chair, former CFP chair, he just stepped down amid controversy today. Was talking about how dominant
controversy.
Yeah, Mac Rhodes was talking about Ohio State being dominant and what separates them from Indiana, what separates them from Texas A&M, and how good Ohio State's been. So, Tim brought all of that up and then said, "Where do you see this team right now?" to Ryan Day. Listen, man, Ryan Day wasn't having it. He said, "We haven't done anything yet. If we think that we've done something, we're dead wrong. We are dead wrong." That's what Ryan Day said. He said the good news is we have a chance. And I was just like, that's typical coach speak. And it's interesting that he was he got a little bit of fire in his eyes. There was a little conviction in his voice when he was saying those kind of things. He didn't. I don't know if he loves getting asked about how good his team is, truly. But I don't think it's a bad question. I just think the way that Ryan Day answers it tells us a lot about his mood when answering those questions. It wasn't interesting to me, though, Mick, until I looked up at the wall behind Ryan Day, and there are 10 slots for the national title banners, and there's only 9 national title banners there. He's talking about how they want to be the first team to go back-to-back. Now, they haven't accomplished anything yet. And then Edric Houston went up to the same little table that Ryan Day was at to speak. And Edric Houston basically echoed the exact same talking point, like almost word for word of the messaging from Ryan Day. That means that the message that Ryan Day is delivering to this team is not falling on deaf ears. It's not going to a team that's got a lot of pride right now, or that's the pride comes before the fall, like too much pride. It's not a team that's needing its ego stroked. It's a team that, Ryan Day called them workmanlike on Saturday after their win over Purdue. And the messaging that he's delivered each week has really resonated with this team. It's striking a chord with this team. This team likes what Ryan Day is preaching to them right now. And I think that's a really important thing. Like, there are programs that are really, really talented. They've got a ton of talent. But if the messaging gets stale, and Ryan Day's in year 7, this is something that could have happened to this program, especially coming right off of a national championship. I mean, look at Penn State. The messaging after a dozen years of James Franklin, quite frankly, was stale. The messaging at Ohio State is not stale. It's not getting stale. It's not getting stale anytime soon. It's fresh right now because they know the opportunity in front of them going up to Ann Arbor. It's fresh right now because most of these young guys didn't play a part in the national championship team, even though they were on the national championship team. I just think it's very important to highlight when a head coach is giving these thinking points. I don't say talking points, but thinking points to his players to kind of chew on a little bit. And the players take that message and go with it. And I think this team has done a tremendous job this year of locking in every week, focusing on the messaging from Ryan Day, applying it to the field, and not having one of these sleepwalk games. Does that make sense?
100%. I think we talked about it earlier this year, but the whole national championship run, winning the playoff, going through all these playoff games, it feels like Ryan Day finally found his recipe he really likes to get his team ready, to get his team leading up to it. I mean, I just went back and looked before the Illinois game. He says we haven't done anything. Last week before the Purdue game, we haven't accomplished anything. And then you talk about this week, we're focused on what's ahead of us. They have not accomplished anything again. And it's a little bit of, it hasn't worked out for this program since. It's a little bit of the whole Georgia identity of when they won that national title in Kirby, you had these players saying they thought we were going to go 6-7, 6-6 or 7-5 or something along those lines. And we all, everybody in the college football public knew that was not actually what was being said. But you get these you get these coaches and you get these programs that are really successful where they lock it in and they're with all Ryan Day's talked about, getting on the road, having these things where you're just locked in together. You're just one big kind of family community on these road trips. And that's where you just overlay those messages hey, we haven't done anything. Because Caleb Downs has accomplished a lot, and he's going to accomplish a lot. He's a national champion regardless of what happens this year. But you still have to make sure he understands. You have to, you mentioned, Edric Houston, who is now a first-year starter. You have to make sure everybody on this roster, 1 through 120 or 1 through 85 or 1 through 1,000,000, whatever it may be, understand that this is a new team looking for new wins and new accomplishments.
Yeah, it's easier than coming up with messaging for your team? Lying. That's what Kirby Smart did for an entire year. They won the national title, and he's out in the meeting room telling his players that a reporter said they were going to go 7-5. Yeah. They ended up winning the national championship again, so I guess that worked. But lying is not good. Ryan Day, isn't in the business of lying to his players. I just think it's interesting to highlight the messaging, Nick. So I think that's where we'll end. I think Ryan Day's doing a good job with this group right now, this young group that's blossoming before our eyes. And hey, man, these guys all want a pair of gold pants. None of them have them. There's nobody on this roster that's beaten Michigan. And I think everybody's well aware of that, including the people who run the program. Speaking of running the program, we just ran through about 20 minutes. Mick Walker on the other side of your screen. I'm just Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on Friday for bold predictions ahead of Ohio State UCLA, and we'll see you over at LettermenRow.com.